Okay, welcome to the Purpose-Filled Life podcast. I am guest host Ashley Stratton, and you're listening to a mini series right now where we are interviewing moms who are pursuing a passion but still doing their best to put their faith and family first. And today we have a super special guest, Sarah Clark, the owner of the Dainty Pear, recent author, and she's a regular media contributor. And Sarah wears so many hats, and she does it so well. And I am so excited to hear all of her tips today. And this is also a special treat for me because Sarah and I were college roommates. And so I have this special opportunity to say I knew her when, because she moved mountains since college. So I am so excited to chat today.
That's you, Ash. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on to chat with us today, Sarah.
Yay.
So just for anybody who's listening and doesn't know who you are, tell us about yourself, your family, the farm, the business, all the things. Tell us what you're up to and a little bit about you.
Okay. I feel like most people will not know who I am, so this is good. My name's Sarah Clark, and I started the Dainty Pear 7 years ago. We have 5 kids, and we had them all in 5 years. And so there was a part in time that I don't remember much because it's just a blur. It's like a big fat blur. But yeah, we have lived in Utah. We moved to Dallas, and then we came back and we decided to kind of give ourselves and our kids a challenge and find ways to give them responsibilities. And so we started a hobby farm, and it's something I never, ever, ever thought I would do. Ash can attest to that. I don't like animals. Well, I guess I do now. But it was never, ever on my radar to do that. And then I started feeling this pull and just promptings coming slowly over time where I'm like, we need to, I think it's funny to say slow down. You're not actually slowing down. It's like way more work than not, but it's a different kind of fulfilling work, and you're working with your hands and you're more connected to your food source and things like that. So we started doing that a couple of years ago and just doing the thing and just kind of going along and following as many promptings as we can and see where it leads, you know?
Yes. And I love that. That's why one reason why we wanted to bring you on the show is because we know you're such a faith-based woman, and that's the forefront of everything you do is your faith and your family. Like the fact that you chose to come and start a farm just to benefit your family specifically and to teach your kids those hard working principles is why we wanted you to come on, because we know that those are your core values.
Thank you.
You started, though, your business in jewelry. Is that why you made this shift into the cooking world because of the farm and I know your new cookbook is called Grounded. And is it connecting to food and family? Tell us a little bit about how you made the shift into the food world.
Okay, there was some like in between. So I started as a jewelry company, and it's named after our first daughter, after her nickname. We had 2 boys and 1 little girl. And I just knew that when I got pregnant with our 5th baby, I wasn't going to be able to do it anymore. So I started the jewelry company when I had 3 kids, and then I have hyperemesis during pregnancies. And so I'm throwing up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 times a day. Like it is all day, every day until delivery day. I'm on IVs the whole time. And so I just knew that when I got pregnant with our 5th, I couldn't sustain that anymore. Because when we had our 3rd baby, so I started the Dainty Pear when he was a newborn. Literally, I would be nursing him on my lap like this, and then I'd be like this, and then I'd be like this, stamping. It was so, like, I look back and it was insane and probably not the most smart or sustainable thing to be doing, but I don't know. It was good. Like, I think there's always a part of our business where if you are starting a business or any passion project, there's a part where you're going to be hustling. And that was my balance. I'm like, I'm doing my work, but I have my kids right there with me. And it just kind of became part of our identity almost as a family. Like they knew what I was doing. They were coming with me to the post office. And sorry, I had my nursing demonstration. I got to sit back down. And yeah, so after our 5th, when I got pregnant with our 5th, I announced on my Instagram, I'm going to be turning this into a blog. And I was convinced everybody was going to leave because they were just there for the jewelry and that was it. And I'm like, basically my business is going to be gone. And from there, it started growing. And I was just blogging about things I love, blogging about hair and makeup and like family and faith. And I don't know, it just kind of started rolling from there. And I always wanted to kind of get into the cooking space. Not always, actually. That's another part of the story that I hated cooking. Ashley can attest to this. I would burn water in our apartment, like if that's possible. I would walk away from the mac and cheese and it's like funny smell. It's so bad. So once I got married, I really, really wanted to, I don't know, I was feeling a little bit lost. I just wanted to find something creative to do. And I fell in love with cooking. And it's something that my mom was shocked about. Like my whole church family growing up is like, really? You're cooking now? Okay. And yeah. And I just figured since my company was called The Dainty Pear, pear is a food and it might fit in.
Oh, I love
like
it.
The long version.
I love it. So you said something in there when you said, my family was like, what in the world? And they were so surprised. I think a lot of women do have dreams inside of them, but they haven't told anybody about it. Or they're
Totally.
like, how do I go after this? Because nobody even really knows that this is a desire that I have. And I'm a little bit nervous to share that.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
I literally was just talking to a friend about this yesterday because she is, she has grown kids and she has grandkids. And she's like, I would love to audition for a play one day. And I'm like, you should do it. You would be so amazing at it. She's like, I'm not a singer, but I can be animated and do this stuff. And she was just cracking me up. I'm like, the world needs you in a play because you are amazing. And it's true. I think a lot of times fear will hold us back. I think insecurity will hold us back where we're thinking, who am I to do that? Or I'm known for this, so I can't do that. And I have pivoted so many times. Sorry, I'm just realizing I have crumbs on my face because I just ate a handful of Cheerios before the interview.
That's the mom life. The mom life.
That's my breakfast. What time is it? 1:10. It's fine. So yeah, I think for sure I've had it hold me back before too. And I had a lot of insecurity surrounding this book. I was thinking, I'm not a chef. Like I didn't go to Cordon Bleu and who am I to come out with a cookbook? And I just had to push through that. And it's taken me a long time to push through it. Making a book is a long process. And now I'm there and I'm excited to share that. And I, hope that other moms just like me will enjoy cooking from it because it's not a technical, chef made book. I had chefs consulting with me and following me around, making sure that they put in the measurements in the cookbook that I was using and stuff like that. So there definitely is a lot of expertise involved and a lot of recipe development with chefs, like holding my hand where I'm like, hey, I need this and this and this ingredient, but I don't know how to make it go together. And so they were so helpful. There is a lot for everybody in there, but I just had to kind of get over that for myself that maybe I'm not a chef, but I know how to put my vision out there and put the right people in place to help me make that happen.
I love that. So you talked a little bit about how you just launched a cookbook. For those that don't know, it's called Grounded, and it will be out by the time that we launch this podcast. And so everybody needs to go check it out because I have personally visited Sarah's house and was taking notes on all the food that she serves. It is so amazing. But you said that you weren't like professionally trained in school, right? But did you have any mentors that helped you along the way? You said there were a few chefs that helped you. How did you go about finding that help that you needed to get to where you are now?
First of all, I had my number one mentor, my mom and my grandma, growing up that I really wish I would have tapped into more. That was a huge, when you're a kid, you know what you want, and you just push everything else out. And I pushed out the cooking and I have serious regret about that, but it's worked out. We've come full circle and they actually are in the book. There's recipes from them in the book. And so it's really special. And it's kind of a piece of family history for us. And then as for everybody else, like finding my team, I put out a lot of ads. I think when you want to do something and Heavenly Father knows that you want to do something and you're taking action and striking that match and, you know, taking that first step forward, things start to fall into place. It's really interesting. And I've seen that, and I have a testimony of that even just through this process. And before the book, I was looking at franchises to bring to Utah where we live. And I found this one that I really loved. So I flew out to Minnesota, and I was on the coldest day of the year. I'm like, this is my thing. I'm going to do this. And I felt so strongly about it. It was almost, you know, that feeling that you get when it's time to have a baby and you just know, or time to do something else. And it's like God saying, now, do it now. That happened. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to do this franchise. And I booked a first class ticket to Minnesota because I knew, I'm like, this is my moment. I am going to do this. I am a boss. I'm like, and I laugh now because it ended up being the most epic failure of all time. But like, we went out there, and without getting into too much detail, I was just so disrespected. And it was kind of a slap in the face because I was like, I felt like I was supposed to do this. Like, why is this happening? And I remember walking through this franchise and seeing little things throughout the store that went back to the brand. And I was like, oh, I just love the branding. It's so cool. And then after that happened, and after our meeting kind of went up in flames, I remember being like, why am I not doing this for my own brand? Like, it was this kick in the pants where I'm like, why am I trying to build somebody else's brand when I can be doing that with something that I put so much love and effort into? And so it really brought me back to that when Heavenly Father knows you want to do something, He'll put things in place. And the thing that you think it might just be a stepping stone. I know for sure I would not have jumped and gone straight into doing the cookbook and saying, because I've been working on the cookbook for 3 years by myself. And I just finally was like, I'm going to take the measures that it takes to get this done. And it was like this really powerful feeling. And I knew I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing, but there were some detours along the way that I had to take and learn from. And, you know,
yes. Yeah. I love that. I love that. I love that you went down a certain path, but it actually guided you to the path that you needed to be on today. Yeah. And I feel like you taking action too and saying, this is a path I want to take. The Lord probably knew, you know what, Sarah's ready to take action and do this. I've just got to get her on the right path. So I feel like you taking action was a huge, huge thing. Just taking that first initial jump to say, I'm ready to do my thing. And that can feel so scary for a lot of people. But I feel like that's a huge, huge piece that you have done and that you are so good at. So I want to talk a little bit about the balance part, the life balance. People have got a glimpse now into all that you're doing and how much you do. And you have 5 children, and you have a farm, and you have a husband and a working husband. And so how do you balance it all? That's the number one question we get. And one thing I think that would be helpful is take us through like a typical work week for you. What does it look like during the week at your house when you're trying to get things done and still put your faith and family first? Are there routines you have, certain things like that?
Okay. I was telling Tom, my husband, last night that I feel like there's some seasons. So you know how things just kind of will do their thing. And I feel like I'm in a season where I'm giving 150% to this one thing, and I'm giving like 60% to this other thing. That math doesn't even add up, but that's how it feels in my mind. And I think as a family, because my husband's an entrepreneur too, we've kind of learned that those seasons happen, but that we always have to go back and make sure that it's a short-lived thing and go back and kind of regroup and recenter and make sure that our priorities are in order. But I think there are some times, and I wish I could say every single day, I have this, you know, there are certain little things I do to make sure that I'm putting God first, and my family first, obviously. But there are some times where there's a hustle going on and certain deadlines need to be met or whatever. And so I'm dumping it as much as I can on the back end, trying to make sure that everybody's needs are met. But sometimes it's not as, you know, graceful and amazing as I want it to be. And then other times I'm putting way more into that. And dropping the ball on everything work-wise. So sometimes there is like a happy balance, but it just depends what we have going on. So right now we're shooting for our second and third cookbook.
Woohoo!
My daughter needs me to wipe her bum. Can we pause?
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Yes. No, that's okay.
I will
You
be right back.
We will take care of this. You just come back. We'll just pause and we will.
I
can't promise you we'll edit it out, but maybe we will. This is real life in action.
Yes,
this
it is.
How Moms podcast. This is the life balance of moms. This is what it really actually looks like. Moms podcasting at home, getting advice, and someone needs a bum wipe in the bathroom. Real life right here.
I'm back. Okay.
Awesome.
I went to wash my hands and the soap sprayed me in the face. So
even better. It'll just add to the Cheerios. Yeah.
So if I'm glistening, it's not a new highlight. It is so. Anyway. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Should I just pick back up?
Yeah. So you were talking about your second and third cookbook.
Okay. So right now that we're shooting for that, we were homeschooling last year at the beginning of for the first semester. And that was tricky. I would say trickier for me to find balance. And so I basically feel like I quit work altogether because I just needed to put so much more into that. And so I feel like moms know, like we have that intuition where it's like, something's lacking here. I need to put some more energy there and maybe let something else go for a minute. And, and so, but yeah, so now my kids are in school and I just have one little at home. And so that has actually freed up a lot during the day where we're shooting for the cookbook. And that's 3 to 4 times a week. It's like super busy. And then we're starting at like 10 and then ending at like 2, sometimes 3. Recently it's been like 3:30. And so it's been really busy. And then I'm so tired, but then we jump straight into the kids coming home. So I have found that the past just 3 days this week, I have been like working out and just not working out is a bad term. I've been moving myself, like taking a walk. And that has, people say that working out's good for you. I believe it now.
Yes.
It's actually really centered me this week because I feel like I've been able to handle things a little bit better. But
yeah, even just that little tiny bit of movement of taking a walk just fires those good endorphins. I was just telling a friend the other day, I have started playing pickleball and it is my way to move my body recently because I actually don't love working out, but I know that it lowers my stress levels when I do because it gets those good endorphins flowing so that I can work on my passions and my faith in my family.
Yes.
And when I don't do that, I get so much more
noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
me too.
It could be simple as going for a walk or playing pickleball or doing something that you love, to add into your day so that you can
working out and I do not go together. Yeah. But especially when you're doing a cookbook, like you have to be doing that. Like yes.
Yes.
Between like vacation.
You're eating the food, I'm assuming. And so you're like, crap, I probably need to be exercising,
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so what good things have come to your family as a whole because of the passions that you have?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's definitely bonding as a family because, like I kind of said earlier, the kids are involved. Like they see me doing what I'm doing and they're like, "Oh, Mom, is that for this?" Or yesterday, my oldest daughter was like, "I love that you did a cookbook. That was so creative." And she's like so sweet. But I don't know. I think they're just seeing it. And I feel like most of all, it's going to help them see that if they want to do something and they literally see the work going into it, that if they want to do something and they work hard and do the steps necessary, that something tangible can come out of it. Because they're holding this book that I have in my kitchen and like I'm on the cover and they see that equaled this. And it's so fun to have something tangible because especially a lot of the online work that I do, it's, it's not really tangible. Like you're not holding it in your hands. And so there's been something so fulfilling. There's been something so fulfilling about holding something that you've worked on, if that makes sense.
And the kids can see that and be like, yes, mom, I saw you do this and now we have it in our home and are a part of it. And because I know you've taken pictures of your girls in the cookbook and it's just so cool that they've been a part
they're in it, which is fun too. Yes.
So amazing. So I know that everybody's journey along the way is not always 100% perfect. Are there any things that you went through, whether in motherhood or your family or, moving several times and running your business? Is there anything that you look back, you're like, I wish I would have done that differently?
Oh man. There have been a lot of bumps. I will say that. As for differently, it's hard to say because all of those things end you up like where you are now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But there are a few things I think would have helped, like made my load a little bit lighter. I think hiring a team a little bit sooner would have been good, but at the same time, I wasn't in a position to do that earlier on. And so I think, I don't know, I wouldn't say that I would do anything differently, but I went through postpartum a couple of times during those businesses and during my husband starting businesses too, which was not fun. Definitely, if you are going through something like that, I would say reach out. We've talked about this a lot, just Ash and I. But that shouldn't be something that needs to be holding you down for longer than it needs to. Like there's a time, I'm a birth doula, and I went to assistant midwife training and started my midwife track. And then that was something that I had to let go of just, in the past little while, just to make room for other things. But it's something that I have a huge passion for. And so if you are struggling in any, way, shape, or form after having that baby, or even up to a couple of years after, you might not notice that it could be a form of postpartum depression, anxiety, or anger, or just anything like that. So I would definitely say reach out. I wish I had reached out for help sooner. That would probably be the one thing that I would have changed, because I don't necessarily think it would have changed the course, but it would have made things a lot easier.
Right.
Yep. A lot sooner.
And yes. Just reaching out and getting that mental and physical help if necessary that you need, I think that makes such a big difference, because women are the type of people that say, I want to do it all. I can take it all. And sometimes they want to put on this show or that they can handle everything that comes their way. But sometimes we do need to say, you know what? I do need some intervention here. I do need some help along this.
And I will say too, just exactly what you just said. So when we lived in Texas, I started having night terrors, and I think I was already having a really hard time moving somewhere that I didn't know anybody. And, but then they ended up being some of our very best friends. So it was like the best thing, we felt really prompted to do that. And I'm so glad we followed through. And it scares me sometimes to think what if we didn't do that? What if we didn't follow that prompting? I wouldn't know half the people there that I know now. And it's so special, and those relationships mean so much to me. So I'm grateful we did that, but I did have a hard time. It was kind of like that Minnesota thing where I'm like, I knew we were supposed to be here. Why am I struggling? Why can't I get off the couch? Why am I gaining 30 pounds? Like, why? It was all these things where I'm like, we followed the prompting. Why am I suffering now? And I don't think I cognitively really, I don't think I thought that really word for word, but you know what I mean? I was just confused, and I was like, why? I mostly beat myself up. I'm like, why can't I get it together? Didn't realize I had postpartum, and I was having, like I said, night terrors. It was, it was pacing my room. How deep are we getting today, Ash? This is too
deep,
much.
You know what? No, I think this is great. I think a lot of people go through these types of things and challenges, and it's not a perfect journey the whole time. And so when you can be vulnerable and open up, I think people can actually relate and connect to that and be like, wow, she's a
okay, great. Too. We're going to talk about the night terror.
Yes.
So
welcome.
So I just remember one night, middle of the night, I got up. I would be like screaming in our room, and I wouldn't be awake yet. And so Tom would be like, hey, like he'd be waking me up. And at first he was really scared, and I was scared because I didn't know what was happening. Then I'd wake up and my heart is pounding, and I'd be pacing the room for like hours at a time, just trying to calm down. And it was really miserable. And then I remember opening my phone, and I think, I don't know, Tom might have, recommended it, or maybe I just was desperate enough at that point. But I opened up a list of therapists in the area, and I was just praying over each one. I looked at their bio and their picture, and I was just literally praying, Heavenly Father, is this the right person I should go to? Heavenly Father, is this who I should see? And I finally, felt really prompted to go to this specific one, and it helped so much. And it didn't get better overnight, but I was able to function again and just be able to pursue taking care of my family and doing my passions and doing those things. But on the outside, nobody probably would have known because I didn't share that. I kind of disappeared from social media here and there, and I would post when I felt good, and then it was off when I didn't. And so that's another big thing, is do not ever, ever compare your place in your journey to somebody else's, because not only could they be, years or ahead of you, months, weeks, years ahead of you in the journey, just on the steps that they're taking, but you also don't know what's happening behind the scenes. And so, I don't know, that's just something that came out of that.
Yes. I think that is such a powerful story, because I think in order to pursue our true passions and be in a right place where the Spirit can speak to us, we have to get our mind and our heart right.
Absolutely.
We have to correct what's happening on the inside before we can go and pursue all of our passions on the outside,
Yes.
and show up for our family on the outside and for our callings and our faith,
Yes.
So I think that is so huge. And I'm so glad we touched on that, because I don't think it can be talked about enough. Getting that help you need to get you right on what's happening on the inside. Because without that, I really don't think you can pursue your passions as fully as possible if you aren't right on the inside.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. It's the oxygen mask thing. And I know that's way oversaid, but you can't take care of others if you're not functioning. And my big thing is I want to have myself and my home and, things in order so that I can be a tool in Heavenly Father's hands. I want to have a prompting and be able to immediately act on it, and not be like, oh, I can't do that because this and this and this and this, or when you're going through that severe anxiety or depression, it's almost hard to receive promptings. And that for me was probably the hardest part of all, is that I just felt like I felt nothing. I wasn't receiving that inspiration I was used to getting. And it kind of felt like rock bottom. And so I was able to build from that rock bottom and rebuild my testimony almost. I wouldn't say I lost my testimony, but I just couldn't feel much. And so I needed it. I needed to seek it. And then right around that time, the prophet President Nelson asked us to read the Book of Mormon from front to back before the end of the year. And I did it. And I don't even know if I've actually ever done that, because I had just read parts and studied, and I have read the whole thing in one way or another, but front to back, just everyday grinding, doing that. And it was so special. And I know you had your own special experiences with that too. And I don't know, it was almost like a really beautiful struggle, because a lot of good things came out of it, but it was really, really hard at the time too. And then I found the therapist I ended up going to, I didn't know this, but when we started talking and connecting, she was a woman of faith too. And so she would be able to tell me, she's like, that is Satan's foothold right there. If I would be saying something, and she would say, we would talk about technical stuff and like brain chemistry and all that stuff too. But she's like, better than that. That is Satan's foothold, that thought right there. If he can get you to think that, then he can, have more and more and more power. And that for me, it was such a testimony of, oh my gosh, I chose the right person. Like, it was so nice. And I have had such terrible experiences before with therapists that I didn't even want to go. And so, yeah. Yes. I forgot what we even we're talking about, but
yes, no, I love all of this. I feel like that is going to be so beneficial for so many people to hear, that's been part of your journey to get you to where you are today, to be in a place where you are today.
Yeah,
So
there's hope on the other side of it. It
yes.
feels like there never will be. But you can crawl out of it little by little and with the right help.
Yes, absolutely. My last question for you that I'm asking every mom on this series is, and you can give me a simple answer if you want, do you feel like it's possible to put your faith and family first and still pursue your passions?
Yes. And I think it's necessary.
Yep.
Too. That would be, I just got chills because we already kind of said it. We already talked about it, that we can't do all these other things unless, ourselves are right and ourselves with the Lord are right. And I think a lot of inspiration and meaning for our business and passions comes from being in that right place. And anytime I've had just kind of a rut, it also correlates with I'm not feeling my best spiritually or in my marriage or at home, if I'm succeeding at business and smashing it and things like that, but everything else stinks, like for me, that's not a win. And so,
absolutely.
I do believe that that's possible and necessary.
I can't say yes enough to everything you just said. It's so important to have that balance of the family and the gospel and your passions to make you feel like a complete whole. But again, it wouldn't be a win if one of those things was suffering. So thank you so much for your advice. Lastly, where can people connect with you on social media? I hope you've got a taste of who Sarah is and how genuine and sincere and what a good-hearted soul she is in person. Where can they connect with you on social media and find your latest cookbook?
I'm on Instagram at The Dainty Pear, TheDaintyPear, and YouTube, Sarah The Dainty Pear. And let's see, you said cookbook, thedaintypear.com. You can find it on my store.
Awesome. I am so excited. And there's not only a cookbook there, but there are some fantastic kitchen line products too that you need to check out that are gorgeous, that will make your kitchen just come to life. So thank you so much, Sarah, for taking the time to be with us today.
Loved it. Thank you, Ash.
Thank you.